Hello and welcome back, Cage Kiplinger, Logan Hubert. This is the K&L Sports Huddle episode number 77. It is Monday, August 24th. This week, NFL Preview Part 2 as we focus on the NFC this time, storylines and predictions. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are a small podcast. We have a real passion for this stuff. You can also get us on Instagram at HuddleKL Sports for breaking news and clips from our episodes. Logan, great to see you again. Get us started.
So the Tour Championship in golf is this coming weekend, but there was a fun little tournament that happened this past weekend, the BMW Championship, and Wyndham Clark was the winner of that, the 2026 U.S. Open champion. Fended off Rory McIlroy on Sunday. Clark had a pretty commanding lead going into Sunday, but he was not playing very well or up to his usual good standards on Sunday, and a lot of guys had a chance. Rory, of course. Rory at one point was tied with Clark for the lead, but after going birdie free the first 15 holes and 3 bogeys, Clark birdied the final 3 holes to win by 3 shots. So he was clutch when it mattered. So, I mean, that's really all there is to say. But other than that, Rory ended up finishing third at 13 under. Clark was 17 under. Patrick Cantlay was second at 14 under, and Scotty Scheffler was tied for 12th at 7.
Yeah, I always like the BMW because this is the one leg out of the playoff that rotates to different venues each year. I liked Bellerive. That was a nice course. Pretty visually striking on television. So, Wyndham Clark, that name back at the top once again this season. He's having a heck of a year, and he'll come in handy around the President's Cup time.
Yeah, he was an automatic qualifier, obviously. So, we will see him then. NBA news: a couple veterans finally found homes. Klay Thompson will be joining the Miami Heat, which I completely understand why they make the move, but he's getting old, and you can't.
It doesn't matter. So was Shane Battier, so was Mike Miller, so were all those guys.
But they didn't rely on them to be the best shooters. The Heat are going to have to rely on him to be the best shooter. So that's why you have to make the move, because you don't have any other shooters. But I still don't know how much this moves the needle is all I'm saying. But I mean, it's not going to, I don't think it's going to hurt anything, but what does it help too much? I just don't really think so. And then DeMar DeRozan is joining the Denver Nuggets on a 1-year deal. I mean, DeMar DeRozan's like getting up there in points total if you break down the list. And I forget last time I checked, that top 10 might not be out of the question. I'm not sure. I mean, he's just, that's all he's ever been. He's just a scorer. And I don't know how many touches he's going to get in Denver with Jokic and Murray running show, but I'm interested to see if he can continue his climbing the point total ladder, because he has more career points than Steph Curry. So hard to believe, but yeah. And then, in addition, the NFL AFC news, because we're going to focus on the NFC, but some big AFC news came out today. The Cleveland Browns named Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback, which made sense if you watched the preseason and you watched how great Deshaun Watson's been. I mean, it makes complete sense. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl quarterback, all pro quarterback for the Houston Texans several years ago. This decision screams ownership. I mean, even look at Todd Monken's press conference, the Browns coach. You can tell he didn't really want this because of how much he praised Shador and how much he really didn't talk about Deshaun Watson. This is clearly ownership not really liking any of the quarterbacks they have, and they understand they're paying Watson all of this money. So we have to. They're making them, and they understand they're not going to be very good this year. So they're making them start Deshaun Watson. Obviously, the fans were booing him in the preseason game, so he's not really much loved by the fans. But honestly, it's not something okay here is that their first 2 games are on the road. So if he's bad, if he's bad those first 2 games, that's enough time to put in probably Shador in
for the home opener.
for the home opener. And then if he's good, then it's not. Then fans might not boo him as much. But to me, the funniest thing about this whole thing is that everyone's completely forgotten. The Browns took a quarterback in the third round last year that nobody is talking about is on the roster. Dylan Gabriel. It's between Watson in the fifth round and Shador, and no one's talking about, well, they spent a third round pick. That's a day 2 draft pick, and they're not even mentioning him to start. So
what a dumpster fire.
Yeah, I mean but I mean they got into that awful Deshaun Watson contract and trades.
Yeah. What I mean, Munkin is probably just wishing he just followed Harbaugh to New York or something.
Yeah, the money was the head coach money. So yeah.
Comes at a real cost. All right, good stuff. Let's move on to the Gridiron, to our NFC preview. And after last week, we definitely mentioned this at the top of the show, about how the AFC is all about the quarterback. The NFC is about the great teams. We've obviously got the defending Super Bowl champion on this side of the league. What do you make, just before we get into all the different storylines and topics, what do you make of the NFC coming into this season? What's the hierarchy of this side of the league?
Well, that's wind the clocks back 2 years ago. Everyone thought that the NFC North was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then come playoff time, they all lost. So now the NFC West looks like they've taken to the top of the totem pole as the best division of football, and I mean they have a good claim for it. Seattle, if you probably forgot, but Seattle was the Super Bowl winner last year in that very forgettable Super Bowl. They were on TV yesterday, and I kind of forgot. I was like, oh yeah, this is the team that won the Super Bowl last year. I mean, their defense is still great. Darnold's back. Jackson Smith and Jigba's back. McDonald's a great coach. Really, a hangover is the only thing that could stop this team from contending again, in my opinion. Then you got the Rams. Arguably, you could argue the Rams and Seahawks were 1A and 1B for best teams in the league last year. Seattle got the home field advantage, and that may have been what edged the Rams out. And they're in the same division, and I don't think you can argue the Rams get any worse from last year unless age plays a factor into some of their players. And then you got San Francisco, a team that made the divisional round, and lost to the Seahawks, so lost a team in their division. So, yeah, I mean, 3 really good teams in their division. But I mean, you got to look around the other divisions too. I mean, the entire NFC North could make all 4 of those teams could make the playoffs. I'm not saying at the same time, but like I could any 4 of those teams winning the division, and making noise in the playoffs. NFC East, you still got the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants, I'd say, are feisty. And then you got the NFC South, who will get that 4th place spot and play a good, fun wild card game against the 5th seed, but ultimately lose.
Yeah, they're always the fun team that really doesn't make a lot of noise. But yeah, I think we should maybe start with the defending Super Bowl champion. That makes sense to start the discussion with the NFC. So the Seattle Seahawks, they went 14-3 last season, winning Super Bowl LX, otherwise known as Super Bowl 60. But, the question around this team is, was this the beginning of something, or was this just like a perfect storm or a perfect draw in the playoffs when you end up with New England in the Super Bowl matchup? But to me, like, they won the Super Bowl in the previous round when they beat the Rams in the NFC Championship game. That was kind of the top build matchup and the one we were all hoping for, and we got it, and it was one of the best games in the whole playoff, in the whole postseason. And so, you got this team that's coming off a Super Bowl win. You mentioned a hangover being a potential drawback of this team coming into 2026. But the storylines are always going to be top notch with this team because you got Sam Darnold at QB, went from former bust to Super Bowl winning QB. He didn't have to do too much. We can both agree on that when it came time to the Super Bowl game. But he's only 29, so this isn't necessarily a 1-year Cinderella story. I wouldn't say, especially with how great they played last season. And like you said, they still got JSN. Mike McDonald is still running the show at head coach. So really was last year a fluke for this team. We know how good they are, well-rounded and well-coached. This a great defense. But can Darnold put together a season, especially a regular season that he did last season, to prove that last year wasn't a fluke?
I don't think it was a fluke. Like I said, by the end of the year, they were one of the two best teams in the league, and only one of those teams could have won between them and the Rams, and the Seahawks just ended up winning a close game. So either one of those teams won, I wouldn't have said was a fluke. Will they be forgettable? I believe so, and just because it was an unremarkable Super Bowl, no global big names on the team really. You can say, well,
Yeah.
Smith and Jigba, Darnold, all those. I mean,
No.
they're great players, awesome players. And Smith and Jigba is one of the best receivers in the league, but no big characters.
Not face of the league type of guys.
Not face of the league. Like go back to the Legion of Boom. Like that was like those were characters, so like they were memorable. There's just really nothing memorable here. Yeah, I mean, and they beat a team, and it's not like they beat. I mean, they beat a team that's even less remarkable. Like it's not like they knocked off the Chiefs or a big name there. So that's why it is all so forgettable. But it doesn't take away from anything. I think by the end of the year, they were the best team in the league, even despite. And I remember claiming that when I watched Phillip Rivers go in there and nearly beat them, and then making the Colts defense look elite. I thought, oh, this team has major issues, but I wonder if that game kind of helped launch them back up. Like, oh, okay, that's a wake up call. It should not have happened. And then from there, yeah, they were dominant. So, yeah, I mean, if this team goes back to the Super Bowl, all the pieces are there to do it. It's just, I just don't see dynasty with this team. Just the way the way the roster's built, and I just don't see. I see playoff team consistently, but I just it doesn't scream. I think you have to have an elite quarterback, and Darnold's great, but he's not elite to have a dynasty.
Yeah, this could be one of those Super Bowl wins that people look back and say it was a Mickey Mouse ring or something like that. But I think they kind of forget the path to the Super Bowl game.
The Super Bowl, yes, you could say that. But yeah, if you go back to the NFC Championship, yeah. But like one last point, yeah, like you really don't see the great NFL dynasties haven't been defensive oriented. They've had great defenses, but they haven't been defense like their main things. Reliant on the defense. So that's why I just don't really see this as a dynasty.
Let's continue on in that division. The NFC West that you mentioned could be potentially the best in the league. I know last week we talked about the AFC West as potentially being that. So it seems like a lot is going right out west in the NFL. So Seattle obviously finishing 14-3, defending Super Bowl champion. San Francisco 12-5. Hopefully they're what should be a loaded roster. It just depends on health. This is the craziest team in the league when it comes to injuries year after year. So if they get any of those pieces back, you'd expect to see them back in a playoff push. And then obviously with the Rams, Matt Stafford, Sean McVay, this team's always going to be there. But the X factor here is picking up Myles Garrett in the offseason. Is that just the last piece that they needed to add? And now they are, a Super Bowl favorites coming out of this side of the league?
On paper, yes, but paper doesn't play football games. The players do.
Good point.
Injuries do. Age plays a factor, and I don't know. You just Stafford, MVP Stafford, but I don't know if he's up there with like Brady and Manning. Even Manning's kind of hard to say, but for guys who play extremely well late in their career and then do it again the next year. That's, I mean, he's got the weapons to do it. He's still got Buka, still got Devontae, but still got a good run game. But yeah, I mean, Father Time's eventually gonna come up to get you, and then the other thing is Myles Garrett, with how great he is. I mean, he probably peaked last year. Like, I mean, he peaked. I mean, I don't know if you can replicate that. And there's usually a decline a little bit from a record-breaking year to the next. And I mean, we've never seen. Well, he's been on playoff teams before, but it's interesting to see a game record like that. How much that actually does help, because I mean, he was the Browns' best player, but they were bad. I mean, they were consistently bad. So whenever you put him on the loaded team, is that gonna help? Still, is that gonna help a lot, or is it just not gonna really change much? Just having a great player on a great team, and it just kind of
Well,
remain the same.
It's the best defender in the league. You could argue the best player, best NFL player in the league right now, and he's bringing what is probably the greatest Rams defender ever out of retirement to come play.
Yeah, which is obviously he's just waiting for training camp to be over, and then he's gonna say, just so he can avoid all that, and then he's gonna. So yeah, I mean, we haven't even talked about that yet. So yeah, that could play a huge factor too. And then assuming he's still up to speed, yeah, then that might be game over for everyone else. But then we haven't even talked about McDuffie. They got traded him for the Chiefs. I mean, that's a great corner to add.
Yes.
So I mean, yeah, and that was at times kind of a weakness. Not, it wasn't, they weren't bad last year, but at times it got exposed a little bit. So yeah, I mean, they're going all in, and they're rightfully the Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. But like I said, it's not played on paper. And then for the 49ers, I'm going to be going over this trend a lot with a few teams here, but every other year. And 49ers had a good year last year. But and McCaffrey played a lot, but McCaffrey's an every other year guy. You just look at his production. So he's probably going to get hurt this year, and I think the offense will suffer. Also, there's just too many weird vibes, just too many strange things going on. Yeah, the chemical substation, we all know about that. It's totally not causing injuries. Their coach was in a mysterious car accident that wasn't reported for 10 days.
Right.
That was weird. And then their owner was just trying to get busy with a prostitute in a trailer park in Ohio today. So, I mean, there's just too many weird things going on with this 49ers team heading into the season. But they're another team on paper that should be very good, and they got the coaching staff to contribute. But they also lost Robert Saleh too, who helped revamp the defense last year.
We love him.
He's always been great with that defense whenever he's there, so that'll be a slight hole to fill. And I mean, you just can never count on this team to be healthy. So you can always say if they are healthy, but when it never happens, then you just expect the injuries to happen. So I think their contending days are probably done, just because of the bad luck they have with injuries.
Yeah. That's guys like Bosa, Kittle, Warner, McCaffrey. All those guys are very susceptible, and they're some of the best players on their team.
And a couple of guys are just getting up there in age too.
Yeah, and that's not going to help that case. NFL.com noted that San Francisco had more than 50 starter games missed because of injury in 2025. And as good as Saleh was with their defense, he kind of had to work with nothing. They were 20th in total defense and dead last in the NFL with only 20 sacks. And so, you lose Saleh, and what you have on defense is not going to do even a fraction of what they did.
Yeah, I mean, their defense has to stay healthy to have a chance.
Yeah, they need Warner back in a big way. As of this week, Kittle was activated from the PUP list after recovering from the Achilles injury. Puts him in position to potentially return week 1 against the Rams. But I don't know. I think we're recovering from that type of injury. especially as a tight end when you're asked to do so much. It's a tough injury to come back from. So I don't remember how highly we were feeling about the 49ers last year, and I think we both picked them to win it all because of the trends that pointed towards that.
And I think they could have, and I really think they could have because they over exceeded their expectations based off how injured they were. So I really, I mean, I think we were. I'll give ourselves credit for that because they had no business making the divisional round with how hurt they were.
Yeah, and I am not running it back. So. We'll leave
remember
that.
They went into Philadelphia in the wild card round and beat the defending champions. So I mean, they should be a great team, but they're just usually fun. There's something always holding them back. Yeah.
I've never seen a team this hurt by the injury bug. It's
consistently,
year over year. It's ridiculous. Let's talk about young QBs. The first one, Caleb Williams. Ready to enter that superstar conversation maybe this year, maybe next year. This is one of the most talked about QBs in the league. A top pick by the Chicago Bears. They went 11-6 last season. And that was under the first year of the Ben Johnson era in Chicago. So then year 2 under him, what's the big storyline for them? It's whether Williams can raise his floor while maintaining his spectacular highs, which we've seen plenty of times, the great plays he can pull off, but can he continue that and consistently play well in order to elevate this team? Because they've got a great system in place. Ben Johnson has been putting the right pieces around him, and so I think this is a team that's ready to break out and really take this division. I feel like with other teams like the Lions sliding with their own injury bugs, but also them losing out on both their great coordinators that they had from just a couple seasons ago that really hurt them the last season. And then we always have the Packers, who we just never can trust to break through. And then the Vikings have their own issues at QB. So I think this is primed for the Bears to really take over this division.
Yes, but you could argue that some of the way they won the division was kind of unsustainable if they repeat that formula. Well, and before I get to Williams, mostly their defense, because their defense, in terms of yards given up and all that, they were not very good. But they were excellent
they took it away.
Causing turnovers, which you don't see very often. So that's
sustainable.
That is not sustainable at all. You got to improve on defense. And that's going to, if they don't, then that's not going to help Caleb Williams at all, who I see the most overrated takes on him, and then I see the most underrated takes on him from people. Like he's hard to judge, I think, and I think he's a good quarterback. I still think he has a lot to prove because there's times he just plays bad for 3 quarters and then he plays great in the fourth quarter, but there's really there should have been no need for him to play spectacular in the fourth quarter. And like that's not sustainable. And like I said, the defense causing turnovers helped a lot in making that fourth quarter magic happen. So yeah, he's got to play a more consistent 4 quarters. And if he can, then I don't know if any team's a favorite in this division. I think all 4 of these teams have a shot. So I'm not going to say if he plays well, they're going to be favorites, but they have a much better chance at repeating as division champions.
Yeah. Caleb, we also have to factor in that he is the cover athlete for Madden. So will that have an effect on his play?
Yeah, I mean, as of late, it hasn't been like the 2000s and early 2010s. That was a legitimate thing. The Madden curse. I think as of late, it hasn't been too bad. Like people have been claiming people have been reaching that, he lost the Super Bowl. That's like Mahomes. So you lost. Okay, that's not a curse. You went to the Super Bowl. I don't. So yeah, we'll see. But it's something to consider. Maybe if the curse gets brought back, then the Bears are in major trouble.
Well, he's still got the weapons offensively. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden. He doesn't have.
Burden's going to be out for a little bit, and then DJ Moore's gone.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
They're going to need Loveland, and then obviously Odunze to step up. But I still got plenty of weapons, and Ben Johnson as the coordinator.
Ben Johnson as the play caller. Yeah. If Williams takes that expected leap that we're waiting for, they become a legitimate NFC contender, no question about it. If he becomes the superstar that everyone's expecting him to be, which very high expectations for obviously the number one pick. It remains to be seen. But what do you think about the rest of this division? So we've got Detroit, who maybe has a bounce back year. I could see that happening for them after last season. It was such an adjustment period to move on from Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn on each side of the ball. They had their issues at offensive line, which was like their biggest strength from the year before. But they've made adjustments around this team, and I think they've still got a lot of the pieces that made that team great. What do you think?
Yeah, one last thing. Can't forget about the Bears' 4,000-yard quarterback. 4,000-yard quarterback streak. So keep that in mind. Caleb Williams might have a ceiling that it's only because he's on the Bears. But Lions finished last place in the division barely. They're all very close, so they're going to get the benefit of the fourth place schedule. And,
exactly.
If you look at the strength of schedule for the other divisional teams, they rank a lot easier because of that. And I thought it was funny last year when the Bears still had playoff seeding to play for in the final game of the year. The Lions had nothing to play for, and the Lions beat them in that final game. That was, to me, I don't know. I kind of read that as kind of a message like, don't forget about us next year. And, I like the Lions to be my first division winner this year because of that. It was kind of like the 49ers last year, having that so easy fourth place schedule. I think the Lions will have this year. And like I said, they still have a lot of pieces from that 15-2 team a couple of years ago, and that team that made the NFC Championship game and should have won the Super Bowl if they hadn't choked in the second half. So, I like Detroit. Green Bay, on paper, they're very good, and they could win this division, but something always holds them back in the Jordan Love era, where they're always going to be a wild card team. Granted, it doesn't look like Micah Parsons is going to be back for the first few weeks, so that's going to hurt because the defense definitely fell apart.
And they were traded away Rashawn Gary. So
yep, traded away Rashawn Gary, and I mean, I still like this team. It's probably a wild card team just because I think people underrate Jordan Love because he has been they just hold him to the same standard as Favre and Rodgers, but he has been consistently getting this team to the playoff, and that's nothing to scoff at. I think they could win the division. I'm not going to pick them to win the division, but they're still a very good team. And then, Minnesota, I mean, they still got several key pieces despite the quarterback. Looks like Kyler Murray is going to be starting, but, I mean, Justin Jefferson, I mean, as long as you have him. I don't like the running game very much, though. Aaron Jones is getting up there in age, and Jordan Mason's not really a running back one in a good backup running back, but not
good in a Kyle Shanahan.
Good in a Kyle Shanahan system. So I still like their defense, but it's going to come down to the quarterback, Kyler Murray, to play well. So, but still got the pieces. So
what if Kyler Murray works in?
Well, if we're going to go ahead and jump, the Vikings are my sleeper team this year because I could see this as a potential Daniel Jones to the Colts like thing.
Okay, I like it.
Same draft class, same top 10 pick of the class. Things went okay, then they kind of fell apart at your first team, and then you get a new fresh start at Minnesota. And here we go. And as I alluded to earlier, let's do a every other year thing. Vikings under O'Connell. His first year they went 13-4. Second year 7-10. Third year 14-3. Next year last year 9-8. So I mean they've won 13 and 14 games in his first and third year. We're on his fifth year now. I kind of like Kyler Murray, and like in this new system, I think this could be great. I think a fresh start's what he needs. So yeah, they're my sleeper team. I like I said, I like Detroit to win this division, but I like Minnesota as like a 5 or a 6 seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I just want to see O'Connell succeed. I feel like there's starting to be some pressure on him, considering, um, it was him and his squad that took McCarthy, and I feel like McCarthy's just been uh, awful. And
Well,
it's been like,
and that's why I think they're sleepers, because all the storylines around them are about like how awful McCarthy is, but he's not going to play. Like, you're kind of forgetting about the rest of the team and Kyler Murray, who has shown he can be good, and put him in a new system. Intriguing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's.
I mean 9. We forgot 9. 9. 9.
9.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
When he's on the field, he's 9. When he's on the field, he's 9.
Well, thank God he's not 5, or maybe Jaden Daniels would be suing him, because let's move over to the NFC East. And so this, to me, I think is the most fascinating division in the league coming into this season, because I'm not sure that the Eagles just have a claim on the division anymore. And I think, if they don't get something right offensively, especially now, no A.J. Brown, there's a real shift in power potentially in this division, where perhaps that prediction that you made last year with the Dallas Cowboys, maybe it was actually meant for this season.
I don't know. I still don't know about their defense. I mean, it's certainly improved over the last couple of years, but I think losing A.J. Brown might be a net positive from last year. I mean, their offense won't be as good as it was 2 years ago, but I think A.J. Brown was kind of a locker room cancer for them last year. So I think it'll help their offense. And going back to the every other year thing, Eagles last 4 years, Super Bowl, ugly first round playoff exit, Super Bowl, ugly first round playoff exit. I don't know. I don't know.
You're killing me.
But Dallas, it's weird. We're going to talk more about teams who face the most pressure. Dallas is just such a hard team because, like, it just everyone already knows what you're going to get with Dak and company. Like, there's a clear ceiling with this team. So like it's hard to say there's pressure to win the Super Bowl or anything like that, because no one can see that happening, because there's just a clear ceiling with this team. So they should be under a lot of pressure. I think Schottenheimer was who I thought was getting a lot of hate to begin with. I think under year 2, an offense with him could be good, but it's going to come down to can the Prescott, Lamb, Pickens trio work again? And I think it can if they all stay healthy.
I think so.
And if the defense takes another step forward, that's the more cloudy issue. And but I mean, I think on paper the Cowboys have enough to take down the Eagles, especially if the Eagles slip a little bit. But to me, those are my two teams to watch in this division, because, as we alluded to, number 5 and Jaden Daniels, I just think there's too many other holes on this roster. Even if he comes back and looks good, I mean, their defense is just horrendous, and it's also not good when your coach is a defensive coach too. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to judge because 2 years ago they were in the NFC Championship game, but they kind of looked like they didn't belong. Was that a fluke, or were they actually that good? Last year was just injury ridden. I don't know. I think it's somewhere in the middle, but I don't really see this as a playoff team at the moment.
Nah, I think they had a nice little Cinderella run a couple of years ago, and
I'll always appreciate them for exposing the Lions and the overrated NFC North that year.
Yeah. Giants, still think they're rebuilding, figuring things out. They're going to be first year under John Harbaugh, so we'll see how that works out for him. See if Dart can continue to develop, if he can keep himself healthy with the way Sometimes he plays recklessly at QB, which he shouldn't.
He already got hurt in the preseason.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I do think the Cowboys are a fascinating team, and they always are, and they always lead a lot of the headlines because of Jerry Jones, because of just what this team and organization is all about, and the expectations that are put on them. With the Eagles, they do have a new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion. So I do feel like Jalen Hurts has been through a lot of change offensively when it comes to coordinators and just multiple systems coming and going. I don't think that's been a positive for him in his development as an NFL QB. He figures it out when he makes it to the Super Bowl because he always has the best performance he's ever had in a Super Bowl game, but it's about getting there. I think this might be a season where they would have to ask a lot out of their defense to carry the offense, just like the past year. But they still have a lot of pieces. They still got Saquon Barkley and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and then that defense is still being manned by the likes of Jalen Carter and, of course, Vic Fangio up in the seats. So it's not the same core, and not everyone's still there from that Super Bowl team, but it'll be fascinating to see. I think those games between the Eagles and Cowboys, whenever it's prime time, are always so good, and the Cowboys always put up one of the best performances of their year against the Eagles, especially early in the year.
Yeah, one thing about the Eagles too, what appreciate Howie Roseman does is that whenever they do start looking good at the beginning of the year, they realize it and they go all in, and then they make a move to help elevate their roster to make the Super Bowl. So I would anticipate them doing that again if they get off to a good start. And then before we move on, I just want to touch up on Harbaugh to the Giants. I mean, this could go two ways. I could see this going two different ways. We'll look at the Andy Reid way or the Pete Carroll way. Both guys, Andy Reid made it to the Super Bowl with the Eagles. Time to move on. Went to the Chiefs. Time to move on from the Eagles. He wore out his welcome and then went to the Chiefs and the dynasty. Harbaugh time is clearly worn out with the Ravens. He won a Super Bowl there. Will he be like an Andy Reid or like a Pete Carroll who won a Super Bowl in Seattle? It's time to move on. Went to the Raiders. That was a disaster. It was showing that Carroll was past his prime in coaching. So where is Harbaugh? That's going to be interesting to see in year one. Is he still got a lot left like Andy Reid did? Or is he going to be is he washed as a coach like Pete Carroll? And the Ravens are going to be dominant this year because Harbaugh is holding them back. So we shall see. But I don't trust his quarterback staying healthy, so he's going to probably have to do a lot of actual coaching and roster movement.
Yeah, this could either end up just falling flat, like you see a lot of big name coaches going somewhere, or he could actually change the culture, which is who pretty much all the Harbaughs are culture builders. And so I think if the Giants are one of the teams that absolutely need that a culture shock to their team and their organization. So to actually start being in a winning mindset, but it remains to be seen what it'll look like for them this season. NFC South, I didn't have really anything to go on except that maybe Carolina could be a sleeper team, a team that could win the NFC South this upcoming year. They came off an 8-9 season, but that was almost enough.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Tampa because Baker plays best when people don't talk about him and forget about him. So, and since they didn't win the division last year and kind of fell apart at the end, everyone's kind of liking the Panthers or maybe the Saints with Shuck in the second year. But
such a weird division.
But I could easily see Tampa going back. Baker, people doubting Baker, and then he leads them back to the playoffs again. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's at the beginning. It's going to be the fourth place team in the NFC seeding wise, and they'll give the wild card team a great game, but likely will not win.
Yeah. Do you have any other sleeper teams outside of Minnesota that you were looking at?
So people keep making fun of this. Well, making fun of them, just not realizing how hard it is. The Cardinals are in an absolutely terrible spot right now with the three teams we mentioned
I like
earlier
the
in their
Raiders.
division. I don't think they're as good as the Raiders, but they've got enough skill guys that their feistiness will cause disruption. Like I'd be actually surprised if they went 0-6 in their division. I could see them picking off a win or two against their three juggernaut teams in their division and uh, playing spoiler here and there. I mean, just Brissett and Minshew, especially if they put Minshew in there. He's usually a jolt for like one game or so. But you got McBride, you got Jeremiah Love's going to be so much fun to watch. Um, and at times their defense was pretty good. In the few games I watched them last year, when their defense was healthy, they were kind of underrated. I felt like even in their divisional games. So, will they make any noise in the playoff contention? No, but they're just like they're very similar, like you said, to the Raiders, where they're in the West. They're not far geographically from each other in a tough division, and we'll play spoiler in a few games this
Um, who's on the hot seat this year, Logan? Who are the teams, or I guess the players or coaches that you're looking at on this NFC side that um, should be sweating it out for their jobs?
year. Look at Green Bay, and you just feel like they've just been running it back year after year, just results. So you feel like there's got to be some pressure on the floor to at least show a team that could make the Super Bowl. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they'd fire him if they make the playoffs and lose again, but I could get the argument.
It's happened before.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Todd Bowles and the Buccaneers, but this is when he's at his best. I mean, him and Baker are just a perfect match because like you think, oh, they're done.
They
They're
are.
going to get fired. They're done. Then they pull a rabbit out of the hat and then win the division. So I'm not thinking that, but yeah. And then I mean, the Rams, I guess, are under a lot of pressure to make this succeed because if they don't, they're going to be in hell for several years with all the how expensive their roster is, and then once their star players age out. So, I mean, this is as all in as all in gets. So, I mean, sure, yeah, McVay and Stafford have a Super Bowl already, but I mean, the way they built this roster, it's this year or not. So, um, that's a lot of pressure. So. Um, One disappointment team, you mentioned them earlier. I think Carolina is going to be my disappointment this year. I think them winning the division, they're going to have a first place schedule, so their schedule's a little tougher than the other three teams in their division. And yeah, I've just never been a believer in Bryce Young in the NFL. I just, uh, I do like their defense, but I just don't think they're good enough to repeat as division champions. And I think there could be regression, and then there's discussions again about is Bryce Young actually the future of his teams.
Yeah. All right. NFC champion, Logan. Take it away.
Well, I alluded to it earlier, and I know you're going to completely disagree with me, but every other year, give me the Eagles.
I'm gonna go Lions. I think they break through. I like what we talked about a few minutes ago about their schedule and what they're going to be looking at, especially having to already have to play NFC North teams. If you can have something a little bit easier outside of that, I think puts you in a really good spot. And I think year two after their adjustment period with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn being gone, I think this is their bounce back year. I think they had to go through some growing pains and have to adjust to losing those guys and those systems. And now I think Dan Campbell's going to get the boys back and ready to go, start biting some kneecaps, and they're going to get to the Super Bowl.
I mean, just think about how beneficial this is. The last place schedule is for them. They get to bypass all the NFC West teams except the Cardinals. They get the Cardinals as their NFC West opponent. Their
Clutch.
AFC South opponent, they get the Titans, so they bypass Houston, Jacksonville, Indy, and then the NFC East, they get Washington. So I mean, and it just shows. I mean, then you
They're
look at
out
the
for
Bears.
blood against Washington.
Then you look at the Bear. You look at the Bears or Packers. They would get the Seahawks or Rams or Jags and Texans, and then Eagles or Cowboys. So
I just think they're kind of flying under the radar. A lot of talk about the Bears, the Eagles, the Cowboys always get a lot of talk, and then obviously what's going on with the NFC West teams. They're getting a lot, with the defending Super Bowl champion, with the roster that the Rams have. I just feel like they're flying under the radar as a sleeping giant, which is kind of how I felt with the Chiefs coming into the season for them on the AFC side. So yeah. Give me your Super Bowl winner.
I will take Denver over Philadelphia. Where's the Super Bowl at this year? Is it Vegas? I think it's Vegas.
Yes.
Denver, home field advantage over Philadelphia.
All right, so I ended up having Chiefs and Lions. This is pretty cool, actually. I think this would be a lot of fun to watch these two teams go at it. To me, this is like the 2022 Warriors, and this is going to be that last hurrah for the Chiefs after some slightly down years. And
what are you talking about? Warriors are still getting all kinds of primetime games in 2026. They even got a Christmas game for some freaking reason.
Man, that's my pick. I think there's something brewing over there. They've got some of their the coaching staffs back, so I like it. I like it. Any last thoughts before we quickly look over some college games?
Week 3 of preseason. So preseason ends this weekend. So usually this is with this new preseason 3-game structure and the long break. You'll see a few more starters play in this one, usually. So, and this is the last chance for guys to prove themselves. So, it could be entertaining TV to watch alongside college football this weekend. I think a lot of the preseason games are going to be on Friday this week. So, yeah, and then after that, it's go time.
Go time. We'll start doing picks for the NFL. Let's do a quick campus corner. Games to watch.
This weekend's week 0. We got the Dublin game this week, and then we got a few others. So North Carolina TCU's the opening game of college football this year. That's going to be in Dublin, Ireland. So just remember the loser of that game, their season's over. A la Kansas State last year, Florida State the year before. That was hilarious. Remember, yeah, they went like 2-10. So yeah, there's actually a lot of pressure that game. And then after that, it's for some reason a lot of ACC teams play on Saturday. North Carolina State, Virginia, Hawaii, Stanford, New Mexico State, Florida State. So yeah, football's back this weekend. Week 1's going to be Labor Day weekend. But if you're looking for football to watch this weekend, there's the ones I named for you. And yeah, I'm excited. Week 0 of college football.
If you're looking to go in person to any games this weekend, I had some games listed, but they were for next week, and I was jumping ahead. But for Saturday, cheapest tickets I'm seeing San Jose State at USC. You can go out there in California for as low as $13. So get your tickets.
I'm looking at this. I honestly, the Dublin teams have it rough. The two teams, and I would say when you're playing a good team, you have it rough. But if I'm USC, this is awesome of how you play a San Jose State team, which you should defeat easily. And then you're going to get a bye week in the middle of the season because every other team that starts the next week, you only get one bye week. Here, since you start the week before, you get an extra bye week sometime. And wouldn't you much rather have that to be somewhere in the season than week 0 from because if you look at it, most of the college football teams have a bye week 0, but the teams that play week 0 have a second bye week basically in the middle of the regular season, which I think is helpful. So when you're looking at a team like USC, who, as we alluded to a few weeks ago, can easily make noise in the Big Ten, is looking to crack into that wall at the top. You can take any advantage you get, and I think this is helpful.
All right, that'll do it. Next week, More college football, more NFL as we actually start picking games against the spread, ready to run that back. I have the crown after winning last year between you and I. We'll see if I can repeat again. But that's the show. This has been the KNO Sports Huddle for Logan Hubert. I'm Cage Kiplinger. May your bets hit, your team not choke, and your stress levels stay manageable. We'll huddle up again next week.